What would you say are some of the indigenous values that helped govern your decision-making after you become the head of Nike N7? How do you incorporate some of your indigenous values in that process?
It just reflects on the connection that we have to be the logo and the mark. I think one of the things that I take a lot of pride in is this very powerful word called trust. And I think that's part of the indigenous values that I took to work with me every day. Because if Nike didn't trust me, I wouldn't have continued to have this job. And if the community didn't trust me, they would have called me out right in the beginning, right? So it's having that ability to allow people to trust what you're doing. And with that trust, obviously, we led some successful stories to inspire our community. So I really took a lot of pride in that part of my career, is that I felt like the community really trusted that we were doing the right thing on behalf of our culture and our community. Yeah. And I took a lot of pride in that the company that believed in me and gave me this opportunity trusted me as well.
Oh, snap. Dang, I can't believe it. Yo, Sam, thanks for chilling. Thanks for stopping by. Real quick, introduce yourself, where you're from, your tribe, and your favorite cereal.
Yeah, Pito. My given name is Sam McCracken. I'm an enrolled member of the Assiniboine Sioux tribe from the Fort Peck Indian Reservation in northeastern Montana. Favorite cereal is Cheerios.
Bruh, what kind? Regular?
Honey nut. Regular with a little sugar on it.
Okay. At least you got some sugar in that bad boy.
Honeycombs are good too. I like honeycombs too.
Okay. Now you're talking. Honeycombs. When was the last time you had cereal?
40 years ago.
Been a minute.
Yeah.
Back when you had prizes in there, huh? I appreciate you taking the time out. We're going to talk a little bit about the time that you have now. We'll get to that in a little bit. But first, before we unpack N7, Nike, the legacy, and all of that goes into that, real quick, let's just get a little glimpse of where you grew up, where little Sam was running around. Take us back to the little guy running around. Where was you running around at?
Well, it's a little bit of a transit life, but the majority was on the Thunderbird Ranch, 7 miles west of the booming metropolis of Wolf Point, Montana. On the north side of the highway. Family was farming a ranching family, cows, wheat, alfalfa, so on and so forth. My mom was a nurse by trade, so she moved me back and forth between the San Francisco Bay Area and Wolf Point. So a little bit transient, but spent a good time both places. And actually finished high school in California.
We have that in common, both from the Bay and also with Native family and folks. So Fort Peck, what was it like growing up there? What was something that stands out from the ranch/Native upbringing?
It's just an interesting lifestyle. You work really hard because of the fact it's your lifestyle. That's what makes a living for you. You work 7 days a week. I think that's the interesting part of it is it's not necessarily a job, but it's a lifestyle. And live that rancher lifestyle, just who they are and what they do. And that's the way my family grew up. We didn't know anything different.
I got some family friends at rodeo, got some family friends that ranch. And we have this phrase that says, man, every move is major. And what we mean by that is like, you can't just go anywhere and have it be regular. You got to go get the truck. You got to go up to the gate. You got to get out the truck. You got to open the gate. You got to drive through. You got to get out the truck again, close the gate. Every move you make is major. Is that what you're saying? That kind of upbringing?
Say it. Exactly. One of my chores in the summer was that I had to haul water. I had to fill up this big old water tank and then go up 10 miles out in the middle of nowhere and put it in a big trough for the cows to be able to drink water.
Dang.
That was a major move because you're driving up there and then you got 3 or 4 gates you got to go through. You got to get out, do it, and then you got to back up just right so that you can get the hose into the trough, and then you have to sit there for, an hour or so while that 100-gallon tank fills up with water.
Man.
And then you go back and you do it again the next day.
Every day. And every move is major, kind of flows into a major move that you made. How did you end up from there to Nike International?
Marcus, I'll tell you, before I got to the swoosh, I found my way into coaching high school basketball. Well, I started elementary, then high school.
So sport.
Which drove me to my career prior to Nike.
Okay.
So I ended up becoming a certified forklift driver, being able to work my job around coaching so I could be off in time. As you know, most freshmen and JV programs, they're the first practice in the day. So you're at 3:30, 3:45, and you had to be off work. So I ended up pulling the 5 to 1:30 shift so I could be off in time. I would get ready for practice. So that forklifting job really allowed me to do something I was loved and passionate about. And as we talk about what got you into Nike, there's an opportunity for me to work in the distribution center in Oregon at the Nike Footwear Distribution Center, and they wanted a forklift driver. And I was their guy. So that's what got me into Nike.
I saw wild Plinko chip of how things end up sorting out. So the access to the swoosh came through kind of a sport channel, but also that hard work ethic channel at the same time, sport through coach. What was the coaching era like for you? Who was you coaching? Where was that at?
I started coaching at a small Catholic elementary school in San Lorenzo, California. My mom signed me up to be the girls' 7th grade and 8th grade B team. So those are the kids that weren't good enough to make the A team and just wanted the opportunity to play sports. And so I was there, ended up being their coach. I had zero coaching background. I'd never played basketball other than just pickup games, I wasn't a basketball player. So I didn't really have the knowledge, but what I ended up finding in myself is I had ability to build a relationship. So I built a relationship with these young female athletes that ended up encouraging me to continue to do that kind of work. So that's what kept me going. And then in 1984, I got asked to coach a girls JV high school team, which then found me to my friend Tony Dorado, who asked me to coach the boys team, which was part of what brought me up to Nike.
Wow. Job, coach. Yeah. So how did you go from forklifting where you were to forklifting at Nike? Where was that at?
Well, I was fortunate that when I was forklifting for companies that had union warehouses. So I was a Teamster. Mm-hmm. That's a good thing because you make a pretty decent salary. It's a Teamster. Mm-hmm. The bad thing is it goes by seniority. And so during the slow time, I was getting laid off, and they'd work you enough to make just enough so you didn't get unemployment, but not enough to make a living. So you were in that kind of awkward spot. And so I had reached out to my friend Tony up here in Oregon, who was living up here, and his wife was working in Nike, and asked if there's opportunities up here. We came to visit. Memorial Weekend, 1997. I started working at Nike in June of 1997.
What a cool trade to have. What a cool skill set to be able to move around. I think sometimes that gets overlooked a lot. A lot of the youth that we stand in front of, they want the instant ready-made trappings of, success or notoriety or whatever. And you had a skill set that was transferable across country. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So then you head over, and now you're at Nike, and you're forklifting at Nike. And then what happens?
Well, I was approached by the U.S. Human Resources Director. He was interested in having a conversation with me about being the leader of Nike's Native American Employee Network. So Nike celebrates diversity through our employees. Mm-hmm. And I think now there's 8 kind of diversity networks at Nike called Nike United. And in 97, they asked me to take over that role. There were 3 natives at Nike at the time, and the other 2 didn't want to do it. So I got the ball handed to me.
In all of Nike. Wow.
Yeah.
First of all.
Yeah. Well, that's a long time ago, though, 97.
Yeah.
Back then, self-identified. And then took the opportunity to kind of connect back with the company, and they wanted to do a Heritage Month. So I reached out to my family, and I brought my family out to tell the story of the Fort Peck Reservation to the employees at Nike.
And this is like internal within the organization doing this.
All internal.
Yeah.
The only internal people were my family.
Wow. Well, that's cool, man. A lot of people don't see that, behind the curtain view of what it's like at an organization like that. So there you are, forklifting around, warehouse. And then, I obviously, spoiler alert, know how this story goes. So at some point, there's the term intrapreneur. Instead of entrepreneur, it's intrapreneur. At some point, the intrapreneur happens. Let's talk about that a little bit. What does intrapreneur mean?
Intrapreneur means that you see an opportunity. You write a business plan, you present it to the right people on the right day at the right time. They like your idea. They empower you to move forward and create something that didn't exist.
Wow.
And so that happened because of the fact that there was an article written in our local paper back in the Fort Peck Reservation. And the lady who ran the health promotion disease prevention programs on the Fort Peck Indian Reservation saw the article, reached out to me via my family, and asked me if I would be willing to help her get access to Nike product that she could use as incentives to promote physical activity and address health disparities in our community. And I went to that network leadership meeting, and I asked someone to raise their hand and was willing to help me. We were able to get that product to Fort Peck, and the light turned on for me and said, if my community wanted access, then why wouldn't all communities want that same access?
Yeah.
And this would encourage me to write the business plan and present it to the Nike leadership team. And lo and behold, they said yes. And on July 8th, 2000, I became the Native American business manager for Nike Inc.
Woo! Hold up a second. Hold on. We got to sit there in that moment for a minute. Res Kid, back and forth, Bay, tribal roots, forklifting, in and out, doing his thing. And I love being able to ask you this question. It sometimes comes across a little disrespectful, but it hits me when I think about your background. I think about who you are. I relate to you a lot. I think, dang, here he is out there doing his thing, head down, being a good dude and just, working. And then you have this idea. And the question is, who do you think you are? I have a lot of voices in my head, self-talk that I go, when I think about you, I think, okay, there you are at the warehouse. There you are on a forklift. And you have this idea. You go, bing, this is a before and after idea. Before, it doesn't exist. After, it does. And so where did you summon the confidence to shoot your shot like that?
Well, Marcus, I'll tell you, you said there's voices in your ear. Uh-huh. My voices in my ear were, I don't belong here. Why me?
Yeah.
A little bit of just reflection on who I am. High school graduate, no college degree, no college experience. Later in life, found out I was diagnosed with dyslexia. I couldn't figure out why I wasn't good in school, which didn't encourage me to go to post-secondary education because I didn't know. But I knew I had this ability to connect with people. I was able to do that. And that's what allowed me to be able to maneuver through a major corporation like Nike to get my spot and help me feel like I belonged. Because for the first few years, I felt like I didn't belong here. Like, why me? But I knew I was there for a reason because the creator just doesn't put somebody in a position to fail. They put somebody in a position because they think they're the right person for that job, for that role.
Wow.
And, like I said, there's no rhyme or reason why it was me, but it was, and I was going to make sure that I was going to do something about that.
Wow. Man, that's I know you for a long time now, and it still hits me just what it would take. I have ideas, there's times that I think of something and I see something maybe missing somewhere and I think, somebody should X, Y, Z, but you didn't just do that. I think a lot of people have those ideas, but you took the extra step. You took the extra step, Sam, and you wrote it down and then delivered it. What was that process like of you taking yourself from pencil to pad and writing it out?
When good things happen, they don't happen because it's from one person. It's the collective. I'm fortunate that my wife, Jody, saw something in my idea and my plan. She's very proficient in building decks and doing that kind of stuff. She was an administrative assistant at Nike for 13 years, so she knew how to maneuver through that. And she helped me bring the plan together and took the concept and ideas that I had in my brain and then made it palatable on a presentation that I could present, and then go in and be who I am and be myself and sell it to the company that this is important work. And I was the guy that was going to be able to do that. They always say it takes the village to raise, raise up and elevate leaders. And it took some other folks to lean in and help me out. But once I had that opportunity, I knew I had the determination to be successful.
That's dope. Man, we always say life is a team sport. And it's true. It's for anybody watching this out there. Let's not a TED Talk here for a moment, but just the idea that I remember sometimes in my life, I had people around me that weren't those positive voices. They reinforced the negative ones. And that's why I'm happy you had somebody around you on your team that was advocating for your good. And you chose that person to be on your, you guys were a team. More people need to be better recruiters of their team, since life is a team sport. And who supports us is who we pick. We need to make sure that we're analyzing it and making good picks. What would you say are some of the indigenous values that helped govern your decision making after you become the head of Nike N7, and N7 is a thing that now exists? How do you incorporate some of your indigenous values in that process?
I think it just reflects on the connection that we have through the logo and the mark. I think one of the things that I take a lot of pride in is this very powerful word called trust. And I think that's part of the indigenous values that I took to work with me every day. Because if Nike didn't trust me, I wouldn't have continued to have this job. And if the community didn't trust me, they would have called me out right in the beginning. Right. So it's having that ability to allow people to trust what you're doing. And with that trust, obviously, we led some successful stories to inspire our community. So I really took a lot of pride in that part of my career, is that I felt like the community really trusted that we were doing the right thing on behalf of our culture and our community. Yeah. And I took a lot of pride in that the company that believed in me and gave me this opportunity trusted me as well.
Earlier in life, my grandfather said that I always need to remember who I was and keep that in my heart. N7 started as a vision of what I thought Nike could provide the indigenous community. It's never about one individual. You come because you want to be part of it. I look back to learn and get guidance, direction, and focus from the generations before me, knowing that as I look up and look down the road, there's someone behind me that's going to take these reins and make it bigger, better, and more powerful.
Trust is a very powerful word.
It is, Sam. Are there anything that you can think of that were times that tested that trust? Is there a move that you made that you second guessed, you wish you wouldn't have? We talk sometimes about the successes. What are some of the times that the ball bounced out of bounds, that didn't work out? What were some of the things you had to get up from?
I think the beauty of me in the role is I didn't know any better. And one thing I think folks that didn't really understand about kind of the trajectory that I was on is, in most kind of jobs or roles you have in life, there's always somebody who's done it before. And you can always go ask for advice.
Yeah.
I didn't have one of those because nobody had done what I did at Nike. And still today, there's nobody that has done what I have accomplished at Nike in corporate America. Right. There's a lot of people who've accomplished great things in their life, but to build a brand in a business at a major sports brand like Nike, there's no one do it. And Marcus, I've known you forever, and my dream was to have other companies do what I did at Nike.
Yes.
It was always a dream of mine.
Yeah.
And hopefully someday that dream will come true.
I'm going to share now, a little story about you real quick, just because I get to brag on you a little bit, in the sense that, I've always been a Nike guy. In high school, Just Do It came out. I needed, to do so much to graduate high school on time that I personified the Just Do It, and my graduation cake said Just Did It. I'm a Swish guy, whatever. But I also work with friends that, I can say these names now, Adidas, other shoe companies, that sometimes even my relationship with Nike on a professional level, I would ghost write or ghost produce some elements for them, and I wouldn't need the credit. We would get the function done with some of my Adidas brothers or whatever, and likewise back and forth. And I told you one time about this movement that might happen, with another shoe brand or with other apparel brands in Indian country. And I was trying to get your take on it, like, hey man, what do you think? And I don't know if you remember this or not, but you said to me, first of all, when someone shows up at one of these native events giving shirts away, they'll get my attention. You weren't even phased at them until they gave, first of all. Second of all, you said, and if that other shoe company at the time, N7, had given $4 million into indigenous communities, and you said, if that other company wants to give $4 million, then great. Indigenous communities now have $8 million, and I'll celebrate that. What is that mindset? How did you get that?
Well, I get that because the role was, and the story I was going to share with you. So I'm sitting in my desk in 2000, had just got this job, and it was my oh shit moment, right? Now what? You wrote the plan, you did what you're supposed to do, creator selected you to sit here, you're in this desk in the Nolan Ryan building. I flipped through the footwear catalog, Marcus, and I came across the photo, and that was my epiphany moment. Like, now I know why I'm here. See this picture right here?
Yeah.
I saw those eyes in that man, and what I saw was determination not to fail. That moment, I realized that I was no longer working for myself, my family. I was no longer working for Nike. I was working on behalf of the than 4 or 5 million Indigenous people who now, because I wrote that business plan, had access to the largest sports and fitness brand in the world. And if I were to fail and not be able to be successful, that community would lose access, and that would be on me, not them, not on anybody else but me. So I took that burden on, and obviously I did that job for 25 plus years. So I think I did okay.
Dang, Sam. It's hard not to get a little bit emotional, because when you describe it like, I don't work for Nike, I work for the people. I mean, there's no pure place to work from. And not all of us get the privilege of being able to, end up in that position, but we can take that heart to mind and be like, because I don't work for the Thunder. I know people think I do. I don't work for the Thunder. I work for the people. And the people that see me on that platform and what that platform means to them is why I have it. I could leave it tomorrow if it wasn't for the impact it makes to the communities we serve. And that's why I just salute you, bro. All the flowers. And, I'm going to put some applause in here in post. So we're going to get some like, and all of that. So with that said, my man, Taboo, all these who's who, CEOs all came to Nike headquarters for your retirement. Let's unpack that. I don't know a lot of people who've taken success all the way across the goalposts. Here you did. You've taken the success, you've taken this mantle, you ran with it, you created this and impacted so many lives for so long. And now you've done the next thing, which is new. Some of us are trying to learn from this. How did you know when it was time? How did you do the mental gymnastics necessary? And what are some of those mental gymnastics that you had to do to take yourself to a position to say, okay, now it's time for me to retire and pass this baton?
It's hard. It's hard to work and fight corporate America. It's a hard grind. When people see me at events and happy, there's a reason why I was there. Is because I fought the fight internally. And I think that's what I took away from my retirement celebration, was people saw the fight that I had on behalf of our people. Because if at any point in time they would have said no, our community would have lost, because they had something that didn't exist, and then it was taken away. And it hasn't. And I knew it was time when I had conversations and knew that whether I was there or not, that they were still going to be committed to the mission and vision that was created in 2000. I knew I had a person in the wings who could step in and take the shoes.
I want to show you this picture, Sam, and you tell me what this means to you when you see it.
Ooh. That means, to me, hopefully, people saw that in who I am and what I accomplished. That being the second person in the history of Nike to receive that ring. The first one was Marcus?
Bill Knight.
Bill Knight. It's like mind-blowing to say.
Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah, that is wild, Sam.
Hopefully that saying will resonate with your audience and hopefully motivate them to look at things a little bit differently, because we all have a gift. I had mine.
That's amazing. I love the fact that they've only done 2 in the history of Nike. One to obviously Bill Knight. The second ring ever to be given out in the history of the swoosh goes to you. I think that's a huge level of commitment on behalf of who was in the room and who's in leadership right now. And they stopped the whole retirement procession and turned to a young lady that I want you to talk about and said that she has their undying commitment. Let's talk about our sister Izzy for a second.
So the baton got passed to a young business professional, Indigenous business professional, by the name of Emcee One. Klamath, Bodoc, Filipina, passionate about community, master's degree from Gonzaga, was committed to finding her way into my size 12 shoes when I was done walking in them.
Wow. Let's talk about that. So this young girl approaches you. Let's talk about her origin story. You're giving a talk somewhere, you're speaking at an engagement, and this young student approaches you. take it from there.
Well, speaking of Southern Oregon University in Ashland, Oregon, I was there during their Native American Heritage Month. I was down there. It was in the early years, 2007. So before any collection or product, it was just Air Native. She came up to me after and asked me if I'd be willing to allow her to job shadow. And it wasn't the first time someone asked me that. And I said, absolutely, here's my email. Send me a note, gave her my card. By the time I got back up to Beaverton, the email was in my box. She drove up and job shadowed me for a day, changed her major, and started entrepreneur in marketing and business. Applied for the internship twice, didn't get it. Third time, 2011, became the intern for Nike and 7. Stayed on from 2011. She stayed on and was a temporary worker for a while, and then landed her full-time job in digital marketing.
With Nike, not just N7, with Nike, right?
Yeah, just Nike in general. But I always stay close to the brand and the work and myself. And I continue to see that passion she had for the work. She'd always find a way, which a lot of people don't know, to have part of her job affect N7. So she was in digital marketing. All of our digital campaigns, she did all of online digital campaigns. During COVID, she ran the campaign. It was all on Zoom. They filmed it all on Zoom, so on and so forth. So just her ability to stay really close to it. And then her last role before becoming the business director for N7, she was working on our Nike Unite stores, and we would do events in stores around the launch of the collection, and she would plan all those events. Always stayed really close, and then was very vocal about wanting to be the heir apparent. So he applied. It was open to anybody in the company to apply. She applied. She went through the interview process. I was not on the interview panel. I was not part of the process, and she got it on. She got it through her hard work, determination. She's learning that the job's not easy now.
Oh man, wow! And it couldn't have gone to a better person. Just outside of knowing her, outside of Nike, outside of all her credentials and capabilities, her character. I'm excited that that's who is at the helm. I know that I would say it's in good hands, but with Nike, it's about your steps matter and your footprints last for 7 generations. So I would say it's in good shoes. She's the right one. What are you most excited about now that you're on the other side of retirement?
I'm doing some a little bit of public speaking. I love to share my story because I always say when I go in to share my story, if I can inspire one person to think differently about themselves, about what they can accomplish, looking at what corporate America does, and my time is well spent. So I'm actually, I'll give a couple. I'm speaking at the Kamehameha School on the island of Oahu, all Indigenous school on Queen's Day, which is the Wednesday before what we traditionally call Thanksgiving here in the United States. And then in January, I go out to Vermilion, South Dakota, to go to University of South Dakota, speak at their Native American Day activities that they have going on. They're going to have 2 high school teams playing, the women's college teams playing, which has some Native players on the team, which is going to be great. And then this one's kind of interesting because it came out of the blue. Philip Exeter Academy in New Hampshire on the 13th of February. I don't know if you're familiar with Philip Exeter Academy.
No,
but they have a graduate by the name of Mark Zuckerberg. You ever heard of him? It's a very prestigious white-collar prep school, and they invited this Res guy from Fort Peck who created N7 to come and speak at one of their assemblies.
Good. So, teach him up, bro. Teach him up.
Educate the uneducated. And that's relevant.
Yes. You know, the quote, Izzy, we're always unapologetically Indigenous, even in non-Indigenous spaces. And you personify that. So I'm glad everywhere you get to go, whether it's an all-Indigenous school or whether it's a prep school, I'm glad that that's the legacy going forwards. And I know that we're going to work on some stuff together, too, in that space. I think it would be in anybody's interest to bring you out in any corporate capacity to help them on the way that you've harnessed the power. I know diversity is like a interesting phrase currently, but the power that comes from more eyes, more ears, more minds in any given situation, the power that comes from that, you getting to speak from your experience in corporate world is a value that's immeasurable. So I'm looking forward to that, Sam. Is there anything you have on your heart you want to say before we
No, I just know that, it took a village to bring this all together. I said that earlier. There's so many people that supported it. If you think about the athletes coming back to Noda Brigade, different athletes that have then jumped in, and we were able to give them a platform to echo their voice on things that were important to them. You go up into Canada, Michael Linkletter, Ashley Collingbull, that whole crew up in Canada, great partners, great supporters of the vision of N7. And then last but not least, but definitely not least, is our boy Taboo, who has taken this opportunity and this platform to really celebrate his Indigenous voice. And then there's the people behind the scenes like you. You're behind the scenes and the front of the scenes. But you and Barry Blunt and Nikki Santos, and there's just these people that you surround yourself with. Paulo Rivera, Charlie Galbraith, Wayne Steele, all these people that have been just big supporters of N7. They're still part of my life. And that's when you find out who your friends are, right?
Yeah. You got a powerful team.
When you're not in the position and they're still there celebrating you or hanging out with you, doing all those things. And that's what really powerful. So
I hope you didn't think that retirement was going to mean that the work wasn't done. We got work to do. So I'm looking forward to getting into it with you.
Yeah, and I'll share a story that Marcus and I have been part of over the last 4 years. I was asked by an elder to come back to the Fort Peck Reservation, and Prairie Blunt made that happen and created an opportunity for me to come home. And Prairie Rent's able, thank you, Marcus. And Nikki jumped in to help out. And we created the Fort Peck Tribal Youth Summit. And I believe it's been really successful because the community looks forward to it. I've been told that it's the highlight of the youth year. And really, the premise is really they can't beat it if they don't see it. And so bringing people back to the rural reservation in Poplar, Montana, to be able to share their story with those kids that probably aren't going to leave Poplar, Montana or Wood Point, Montana. They're going to be staying home for their life and not really venture out. There may be opportunities to do that more. And I'll just kind of tease it with that.
Yeah.
So I think we have a little bit of magic in the bottle with those youth summits and bringing it to the community versus having them come to us. So
I love it.
Really finding the right partnerships and finding the right people to be able to kind of move that vision forward. And I think we have a foundation for the last 4 years we've done at Fort Peck.
I love it. It's one of my absolute favorite events to get to do and be a part of. So for my non-Native people who watch this, in Native world, we have a lot of conferences, and it's kind of like similar, maybe youth camps or whatever. We have conferences, and the programming and the content delivery in those spaces is full blast with media and lighting and staging and all of that comes with that. And to go in those spaces is really impactful. What I love about this is taking those trappings and pulling those to the community. So instead of having a young person go to the conference, we bring the conference to that young person so that right there in their home, they get to feel and see world excellence programming and platforming at the highest level. And that's you, Sam. That's your vision for doing it and pulling it off. And it's always a treat when I get to come along. So I appreciate you, Sam.
Yeah. So more to come on that, but that's kind of what makes me excited and put in retirement. That kind of work.
I don't know if this will make the cut or not, but I also appreciate, I was just a sloppy kid in conference world running up to you, man, going, hey, man. Yo, Sam, when I saw that somebody in the swoosh was going to try to do something in Indian country, I was freaking out. And I was like, oh my God, where's he going to be? Oh my God, where's he going to be? And I was like, yo, Sam, man, I'm going to be at Chamawa tomorrow, man. I'm going to be at this Indian conference tomorrow, man. I'm going to be at this other Indian school after that, man. I'm going to be like, yo, Sam. You were like, what's your email? What's your shoe size? I was like, this dude ain't sending me nothing. And then box comes and I open it up and I'm like, what in the world? Now, I know when people see this, they're going to be like, those are crusty AF. Okay, well, that's because when I got these, I didn't know that they were special with the date on them. I just thought they was just some shoes, some Air Native. So I wore these in almost like, these saw creeks and cricks. These saw res hoops, dust courts. These saw everything. These were out in the hood. These were out in the res. These were everywhere. And I didn't know till maybe a couple years later, someone said, hey, man, those are special. But I appreciated you for hearing some sloppy kid come up to you, some sloppy student. I'm probably wasn't a kid, but I was still young adult. And you didn't despise my youthfulness. You didn't turn the other way and think, man, this kid's just, thirsty. You were like, what's your email? What's your shoe size? And you came through. Came through for me. You came through for so many. So I appreciate you, Sam.
You got it. Family.
Let's go. Well, I can't thank you enough, bro, for taking this time out. And as for the rest of you out there, this is how you get a hold of him and check him out. Follow him, give him an email, give him a shout, give him his flowers. And I'll see the rest of y'all on the next